Any other public comment?
Nick Bordner, 55 Quail Road, Peaceville, 45 years in the township. So I was watching the meeting, I think 2 meetings ago, and Ms. Bryan brought up a point about, I think it was, what was it? I lost my thought. I apologize. Hi, do you remember what we were talking about?
Yes, the attorney that was hired to investigate.
No, not that, Alan. Definitely wasn't that. Not the report and the right to knows.
Transparency?
Not transparency. We talk about that every week.
How about the Appalachian Trail?
No, definitely not the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, it's not getting any better as you get older.
I know. Oh, you know what? I should have known this. It's about the zoning and the notification of the households and how many feet it had to be. And I believe, not the Wawa, we're talking about, well, it tied right in with the Wawa. I believe it was it 200 feet from the Wawa sites, houses, well? Was it 200 or 300? 300 feet? That was the, what the township deemed liable or viable for that? Did we ever find out where that came from?
There's a notice requirement in the township ordinance to notify homeowners within so many feet.
But 200 feet, I think that was in question. Was it ever a larger area?
I think it was. I thought it was 400 feet at one time.
Or how did it shrink?
I don't know.
It was definitely much further. I think in 2008 it was changed.
It was. I believe it was 2008. Yep.
Do we know how or why it was caused? Or, I mean, I can read it to you, or if anybody else knows what's going on.
Well, this is public comment. If you have a comment,
Well, my comment is, Ms. Brand had asked the question on why it was shrunk and then is trying to expand it to a larger area. And it's my understanding that it was larger before, and the members of the board at that time, in 2008, shrunk it down. And I just was curious if that was verified, or if it's true, or if anybody looked into it.
Well, after that meeting, Mr. Wesley had made a comment to me that he was on the board back in 2008 or 2009, and he recalled something coming up about that, the area of notification, whether it should be increased or decreased or something like that. And so we looked back into the minutes of 2007, 2008, 2009, and came up with the minutes for March 12, 2008. And there was a zoning township mailings for land development, major subdivisions topic that came up at at the public meeting. And according to the minutes of then, Ms. Borain said it had been brought to her attention that there are residents in the community who are asking to be notified on every issue that pertains to zoning and planning. Ms. Borain said she knows that the ordinance states that anyone living within a certain radius of a project must be notified, but feels that they are the only ones who should be notified, no one else. Ms. Borain said the reason she feels this way is because the township advertises in the Courier Times. This information is put on the cable channel and the website. Mr. Rowley said if the board would like to set that policy, it is fine with her, but she would also like to mention that there have been certain projects, like the Meister property, where people on Sterner Mill Road wanted to be notified when this project was coming before the board. A discussion ensued. Upon the advice of Mr. Savona, who was the solicitor at the time, a motion was made by Mark Hopkins. Mark Hopkins made a motion that the board establish a bright line rule that everyone within the radius gets notice. If anyone outside the radius would like notice, they would be required to fill out a right-to-know form and pay the cost for copying and mailing of same. It was seconded by Connie Borain, and the motion was passed with a vote of 4 yeses and 1 no. The 1 no is John McMenamin. That's the only reference that we could find, and again, that was from March 12, 2008.
So we don't actually know what it was originally?
Not according to these minutes.
Do you remember, Connie?
I think it was 400 feet. And if I could just make a comment, I'd like to
Thanks,
stand up
guys. I
here
appreciate it.
with the head of the Republican Party.
Here we go. We're not political.
No. I think it was 400 feet, and I think 400 feet seems ample, and Keith was on the board when I was on the board.
And I think part of the reason why the township didn't want to go outside of a specific radius, and I don't recall the minutes of those meetings, and it probably took the employees quite a bit of time to pull those minutes during the course of their workday. But anyway, I think that part of the reason was that the township didn't want to go outside of that radius, if I can remember, is because they wanted to keep costs down. And that kind of hits another note when I was talking about, the reporter and how much it would cost the township to pull records for the investigative reporter, is that, there's a motion in effect now with a lot of municipalities throughout the state of Pennsylvania where they want to pull public notices from the newspaper. Not everybody has access to a computer. I'm totally against pulling public notices from the newspaper because everyone has a right to know what's going on. And if you pull those public notices, which means when we have zoning hearing board meetings, or there any other type of meeting or development that's going on, every resident in this community has a right to know what goes on. And every avenue of communication needs to be used. So whatever those minutes say, I don't ever remember going against residents being notified, because I'm all for residents knowing everything that's going on in the township, and I hope we never decide to pull public notices from the Courier Times, because that would be a real disadvantage to the residents.
Thank you. I do know that the minutes are the official record of the meeting, and thank you for your opinion.
Sure they are, but they can be manipulated as well.
Anyone else for public opinion? Seeing none, we'll move on to the... Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Come on up, ma'am. I didn't see you.
it's actually for Joe Condo. He's not here tonight, so should I wait for her?
Or